Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jewyl Clarke. I am the Integrated Curriculum Coordinator for the San Diego County Office of Education, supporting innovation, career readiness, CTE, and any other exciting things that I can support along the way. Today we're going to be talking about this funny word, Ikigai, and we're going to talk about Ikigai for all, helping all students find their purpose and ensure that they are future ready. We do have a couple of people here, so feel free to chime in on either unmute yourself and ask questions or pose things in the chat as we go. But otherwise, I'm going to jam through these and try to get you out in maybe 45 minutes or so. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is a number of different things that come together to help a student find their purpose. So the first is thinking about what a student loves, what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. So these are four main components of what we'll talk about today. What you love and you're good at, or what the world needs, these are things like your passion and your mission. But often our passion or our mission doesn't fit into the box of what you can get paid for. And it turns out to live in San Diego County, getting paid is kind of important. And so we want to manage our students' expectations and knowing what the quality of life that they want is and match that to a career that would be able to pay for that. When you look down here in these two ideas of profession and vocation, if you're kind of understanding the diagram, what you'll see is if we look at these in this particular diagram, the thing that they're missing is love. And I don't know if you've ever known somebody who doesn't love their job, but I've known a lot of people, and I think our students are often surrounded by people who don't love their job and don't know that you can love your job. And so what our goal is to develop programs in school so that students can explore what they love, consider what the world needs, understand what you can get paid for, and under that is kind of what makes a job a good job, and then become good at that through developing a pathway. And so together, those are this idea of Ikigai, and Ikigai is actually a Japanese term meaning reason for being. And so what we want our students is to have more than just a profession or a mission or a passion or a vocation, but all of that coming together so that they feel that they are making an impact on the world and that the world is allowing them to have the life that they want. And that's a big order. It's not like we can magically snap our fingers and make this happen. But by incorporating this into our curriculum, into our courses, into the student experience in the K-12 space, we will have a higher chance of helping our students find this bigger picture of what a career can be. Our slides today can be found on the distance learning site. So let me go back and just make sure. I think most people know at this point our short link here, the bit.ly/CTE distance, which is important. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that into the chat here for you all. So you're welcome to follow along or go back for that later. And there's a small poster that you'll see in a little bit. You'll also see the small bit.ly at the bottom, the CCR SDCOE. That's because I do this presentation a lot. So you'll also find it there along with some other resources, including a student-facing version of this and a handout that goes well for students. So if you want to replicate this for your students, there are already some resources there for you. So as we go through this, also this is the handout I would give if we were all in person. And you'll find this additionally both on the distance learning site and on the bit.ly, the CCR bit.ly that is on these slides. And this is just kind of an overview of everything. And if you remind me once I'm back in the office, I do have a few large poster sizes of this. So if you would like one of those and you're anywhere in the San Diego area, remind me when we're all back at the office, and I'll be happy to send one your way through the truck mail. So the first thing we're going to get into is this idea of what you love and really thinking about how that impacts our career options and choices. So the first thing is to know yourself. Strengths, interests, and values. We hear a lot about that. All right, Dawn's asking for one of those posters, so absolutely. However, I will say I will forget, so you just keep reminding me along the way, as I won't be in the office, it sounds like, until perhaps this summer. So All right, so knowing what you love, your strengths, your interests, your values, and how those incorporate into the career that you might be interested in. And so knowing your options, things like what kinds of problems might you solve one day and what careers are in those fields. So really exploring this is a great way for students to start to get a feel for how their own interests, how the things that they want out of life might impact what kind of career they would choose. A lot of people have been using what we call the RIASEC or the Holland codes recently. We have a few initiatives here in town that are really taking advantage of these. But if you've heard RIASEC, it's actually just a fancy acronym for the actual qualities that are here on this graph. So realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. These are all different personality types, and there are a lot of ways to see how they might impact a career choice. It's great because although there are some options where you might pay for something that takes you through this, the California Department of Education is already funding a free way for students to explore the RIASEC and where they land on that. So the California Career Zone is one of my most favorite resources in the universe because it has so many excellent opportunities. Here, that direct link went to the interest profiler. And so by clicking through here, students answer a few very basic questions. And at the end, they will get readout on what their RIASEC are. Now, I'm not going to take the time to answer these 30 questions. You're welcome to, those of you who are following along. But what you can also do is, that's this interest profiler, you do a quick assessment. So here it kind of outlines those 6 different types. So you can think, I tend to be very conventional. I follow procedures and routines, right? And I need details more than other people might, all right? Or realistic. So there are different qualities of each one of these. And if you were to choose, let's say, social, which is a pretty common one for teachers, turns out we spend a lot of time with other humans, maybe investigative and realistic, and view the results, what you'll see is a number of careers that align to all 3 of those. So these might hone in on the most aligned careers along the way. So maybe it turns out maybe a special education teacher would be a good fit for me. And it gives you a lot of different data points. So California Career Zone is amazing because it pulls data out of ONET, which is a national database for labor market information, and it creates a really student-friendly interface to interact with that information. So although the average salary is $82,000, you can see the band from 50 to 113,000. This has a lot of annual openings, so that's a really great one. And as we look through here, it gives us a ton of different kind of sets of information about this particular this particular career, as well as other occupations that might be similar. So we'll pop back into California Career Zone in a few minutes. The other side is, that's really interesting, is if you click this is an example of a college who has categorized all of their majors based on the RIASEC. So let's say you're artistic and conventional, then you might want to choose from some of these particular majors. So this is a really excellent way to engage students in starting to think about what they might major in and what they might be most interested in going forward, merely based on some of their own personal qualities. And because those are really important when it comes to careers. All right. Another really important piece of this work is connecting academic content to careers. They have to learn English, math, science, social studies, no matter what. So if along the way we can infuse career readiness and career connections, it's so much more powerful for our students to start understanding A, how they'll use what they're learning, and B, what their options are once they graduate. Again, in order to know if you love something, you have to experience it. So the more career exposure we can give students, the better. This might come through things like contextualized learning, integrated curriculum, career exploration, project-based learning, and anywhere you're doing PBL, if you can add a layer of career to that, that would be a great way to connect, whether it's interviewing someone who's in a related career or looking at career opportunities where they work on those same problems. As you know, probably career pathways is a really core piece of connecting content to careers. There's a few resources embedded in here, so feel free, if you get into the slides later, you can click on that. But one thing that a lot of times we do with our students is we look at them and we say, what do you want to be when you grow up? What we find is that that is a really daunting question. Not only is it a daunting question, but it's also not a very realistic question, because a lot of times our students are going to grow up, they're going to be something that doesn't even exist right now, and they don't actually know what jobs there are. So instead of asking them what they want to be, a bigger question might be, what problems do you want to solve? And if we give our students chances in their regular academic program to solve real world problems, they start realizing what kind of impact they could have on the world, or what kinds of creations they can have in order to impact like technology or design or anything along the way. And then that helps them to better feel out, okay, well, what is it I want to do? Well, if I want to do this, what careers are associated with that? And so I had a friend whose daughter was a National Merit Scholar, which is, you know, she did incredible on a nationwide test. And when I asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up, she did not have an answer. And I said, well, what are you going to major in? And she's getting a free ride. And her dad says it doesn't matter because it's free. But we know it does matter. It matters what you major in. And so I changed and I said, what kinds of problems do you want to solve? And she was so passionate about the environment. And I just said, okay, well, do you think there's some careers that do that? And last I heard, she's majoring in environmental studies. And so I think it's really important for us to do a little bit of changing in the way we address students, and think about how we can connect their own passion to the world of work. And so these ideas, when you're working with your students, whether it's one-on-one or as a class, think about what they love and what they have an interest in. Right now, I don't know if you've noticed, but students are really into a social media platform called TikTok. And that is a platform where people upload very short videos. Some of them are learning dances, or some of them are just talking about their own experiences, or singing a silly song, or mimicking something. But at this moment, while our students are learning things like how to film a short film, how to edit that, how to add green screen, how to add all of these technology things to the video they're creating, if we can leverage their interest and give them the skills to do that in a more professional environment or in the classroom, then they start to realize that the things that they love to do might actually make money one day. If you've noticed right now, as we're all trying to do this distance learning thing, a lot of teachers don't necessarily have experience in creating short videos or things like that. And so our students are on their own for fun doing these things that can relate into the world of work, whether it's creating YouTube videos or TikTok videos or making a meme, whatever it is. These technology skills are great and they can translate into careers. So the more we can leverage their exciting interests, the better along the way. When we think about what kinds of problems they want to solve, we might make a little bit of a list. So I will challenge my attendees maybe to type in some ideas into the chat, or unmute yourself. What kinds of problems might your students be interested in solving in the world? Now we'll have a moment of thought. All right, I see no typing or mics going off. So hopefully you guys are following along, but luckily I already have some ideas right here for you. So students might, oh, here we go. Ooh, laws around probation. Oh, that's really interesting. There are tons of careers that would impact the laws about probation, right? So that could be everything from being a probation officer to being a legislative analyst or a lobbyist, or even, anyone who is in the justice system in general. So that's definitely an excellent place where students who may have experienced probation could then look and see where they see equity issues and they can address them as an adult. That's amazing. I also see art field. So in the art field, the ability to create and design is huge, and that goes across so many industries. The need to be creative, to create things that engage people, is an essential piece of the puzzle. And so as we look at things like graphic design, we see an amazing opportunity for our very artistically talented students to get paid to actually develop art, and develop in such a way that not just exists for what it is, which is an important piece, but also draws people in through advertisement and things like that. Perfect. I see housing situation and more parks. There are so many people whose careers are part of how to improve life for where you live. And we do have a lot of homeless, and regardless of homeless, why are a lot of people homeless? Housing is expensive in San Diego, and that is a challenge, particularly when we're in a place where it doesn't matter, if somebody needs to hire an industry, it's such a beautiful place to live that people will move here to take those jobs. So if we can't upskill our students to be able to take the job, someone else will move here, take the job, increase the cost of living by having more and more people here. And so it just becomes a vicious cycle. And so the more we can do to address those and give our students power over addressing those, the better. So here are some additional ideas here: create a new technology, cure disease, fight for social justice, protect the environment, change the way we work or live. I mean, who doesn't have their cell phone in their pocket every day? And there was no smartphone before 2007. And so it's amazing how that single technology has so significantly changed the way we work and live. Increasing access to services or products, and what most teachers do, which is empower others to change the world. And so our impact is a huge piece of this puzzle as you inspire students to find the right career where they're happy and able to put their best skills to work to do the best work. All right, so we have finished the bubble number 1 of what you love. Does anyone have any questions, comments, before we move on to talk about what the world needs? All right, feel free to add it in the chat, or you can always unmute yourself, as I said, and join in on the conversation. I know it's a little bit unusual to be in a webinar, but we're all going to get so used to this. It's going to be great. All right, Dawn, are you waving because you have something to say?
Yeah, so far I love that this is all ages. I
Yes.
love just the question, like what you love. No matter how old you are, you can answer that question. Even if it's not what you like, but it's like what you love. It goes a little deep into the emotional, into like more of like your heart. And it's such a positive way to start out, even having a lesson or a conversation like that. It's great.
Absolutely. Well, we see kids have a passion for so many things, and then we squash it. No, you will sit in the desk and you will fill out this worksheet. And there are so many opportunities to engage our students in more meaningful learning, and to really think about what they love. And, and it may not be exactly what they think they want to do. If you have a student who is really interested in professional sports and maybe they're a great baseball player now, they may not be to the level where they're going to work professionally as an athlete. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite tours is taking a group of teachers to Petco Park, which is our local baseball field. And we did a behind the scenes tour of their network infrastructure. We talked to all of their IT staff. We got a good look at kind of this huge wall of all the technology, so that they can see if anything's going wrong as they are the main component that brings baseball to the world through TV and things like that. So we can have students who have a passion for sports, and they can find a career where every day they get to go be part of the world of baseball, and yet they didn't have to be there because of their athletic prowess, as that is a very narrow ability, and they can work. They don't get traded. They can get better after an injury and go back to work, all these things that are limitations in that field. So it's really about expanding their idea about what their options are for work. All right, so although people might want to be things like we just talked about, a professional athlete, turns out that the world doesn't need a lot of professional athletes. It seems like there's a lot because we see them on TV. But if we look at the high wage and high growth jobs in San Diego, that's not one of them. So it's really helpful for our students to get a feel for what are in that, what fields are in that list, to build out the essential skills that they need to get hired and keep a job and be promoted in a job. Because a lot of times you might be able to get a job because you can really pull off an interview, but as soon as you get there, you don't quite have the interpersonal skills to move up. And so those are really important. And then again, what are the problems that need to be solved and who works to solve them? So in San Diego County, our San Diego Workforce Partnership, which is our workforce investment board, does a lot of work to update us on our labor market. Last year in 2019, they updated our industry high wage, high growth sectors. And so you can see we are now up to 7 sectors, and yay, education and human development made it into the priority sectors, which is fortunate and unfortunate, as there are a lot fewer people going into our field at this point. So we do want to encourage students who might be a great educator to join us in the field. But what you can see is things like advanced manufacturing, which incorporates a lot of engineering and a lot of very technical skills. Healthcare, we know right now healthcare is huge. And, over like a 10-year window of time in San Diego, we had more than 40% increase in jobs in the healthcare field. So we know that healthcare is growing, and we know at a moment like this moment, which is terrifying and exciting at the same time to be here in San Diego, where our biotechnology industry, one of our local companies has come up with a vaccine that may be able to address the coronavirus, and against all red tape and odds, is going into clinical trials this month in April, which is wild because usually that takes like 7 to 10 years. And so the ability to be flexible and meet the needs of our community is something that, because we have such a strong biotech infrastructure here, that San Diego is going to be a forerunner in that process. So that's very exciting. And so how do we help our students to hear about that, know about that, give them articles that say like, hey, check this out. Look at what our industry in San Diego is doing and how they're impacting the world. You could be part of that one day. So as much as like labor market in general is a very, I don't know, it's like not one of those subjects that you sign up to go to a talk about oftentimes. But then it becomes our job to translate that to students, to get them excited about the opportunities here in San Diego, and so that they know where there are more and more jobs, and these are the sectors that are predicted to continue to grow. The community college has even a broader set of this information, and so what I definitely recommend is that if you click on this labor market posters, this comes from the Center of Excellence, which is funded by and part of the community college system. For each one of their 9 sectors, they have these wonderful posters that give quick, fast facts. They tell a little bit about the amount of money that you'll make at an entry-level, median, and experienced position for each one at different kinds of academic levels. So things like the first category here is a diploma in post-secondary training, associate degree or higher. It will give those kinds of things. So like here, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see there's one of these for each of the 9 sectors our community colleges recognize. So like business and entrepreneurship, that's a support sector to our priority sectors, because no matter what sector you're in, you need business. So these are a great source of data for students, and something that I always have printed out on a wall where I am, and it's a great thing to have up in your counseling center or in your classroom if you are teaching one of these particular subject areas. All right. There are additional resources for labor market information. If you happen to be not in San Diego County, some of these are really helpful. Center of Excellence covers statewide, although the data I showed you on the last one is all San Diego specific data for Center of Excellence. The California Employment Development Department also has, or EDD, they have a number of resources that would share labor market information. Your local WIB, so in San Diego County, that's the San Diego Workforce Partnership, who we work with closely, and I'm always keeping an eye on what they put out, as they are really have the finger on the pulse of what's happening in our local workforce. In San Diego, this particular piece of data is really interesting, and you may find yourself later exploring this resource. I'm actually going to, let me copy the link, and I'm going to paste this into the chat in case you want to check this out. But this website, first of all, is a beautiful website, but it really underlines the need for us to look at workforce development and look at career readiness as an equity issue for our students and for our community. So here you can see our innovation economy, predominantly white, only 17% Hispanic, when we see our total population is twice the number or percentage of Hispanic population as the innovation economy. And so what we see is huge equity issues between the people who live here and their access to be employed in a lot of this, in these economies. And some of the reasons why might be on this very map, where we see that jobs are distributed differently based on race and ethnicity. And this is also due to the fact that we have different communities where we may have different distribution of race and ethnic households. But what that also means is that students who don't live, if you look at these little bubbles here, these are employment hubs. And any student who doesn't live near that or know people who work there may not even realize what opportunities are afforded to them in our economy, because everyone around them does not have a job in the innovation economy. What that means is it's our role in education to make sure that all students are exposed to all of these fields and have access to them along the way. There's a lot of other really interesting data here for you to peruse. I'm not going to take too much time, but one nice thing is the comparison between degree holders and 7th graders. And this is 2017 data, so it's only a few years old at this point. I'm going to go back over to the slides, and here's one of those, just a screenshot of that idea of really thinking about, how do we give students a reason to get that degree, a value to that degree, because we know that it increases their ability to earn wages later, and also to rethink what it means to get a degree. This 4-year or failure mentality has caused a lot of people to get degrees that are worthless and have a ton of student debt, right? So how do we help them evaluate? Is there a 2-year program that will do this for a great living wage? If you're picking and getting into a 4-year college, awesome. Let's help you decide on a major that has a career destination that's high wage and high growth. The essential skills of the world of work are another piece of preparing our students for the workforce. Right now I'm working with San Diego Workforce Partnership, and we had planned to release an update on this only 2 weeks ago, and here we are responding to COVID-19 instead. And so you can expect in the coming months a slight twist on this list of essential skills, as well as this fall we're planning to release some tools that educators can use in order to implement them in the classroom. Right now there are some tools already in existence. There are some rubrics and a teacher's guide that you can find at this sdcoe.net essential skills page. All right, Any questions about labor market information or what the world needs, or comments at this point before we move on to the money? All right, moving on. So let's talk about getting paid. And now the word getting paid is being used very loosely here because it's really like, what is the value that the job brings to you? So this idea of what does it mean to have a living wage? Study the return on investments for educational options. So how much does it cost you to get there in the first place? I think this is really important, and we skip this a lot because it's not naturally part of what we talk about, but understanding the balance between income and quality of life is a really important piece of that puzzle. And also understanding that there are careers at every level in a field. And so you don't go straight in at the average. When we're talking about finances, you go in an entry level on what does it mean to have a career trajectory and move up in that career. And ultimately, the big question in this bubble is this idea of what makes a job a good job. So if you have any ideas around this, I wonder if you might want to answer, Dawn and Sienna, what makes a job a good job for you, or what might make a job a good job for our students? You are free to type it or just unmute yourself and share your ideas. Ooh, I like that one, that they are proud of. I think that's really important, right? And that comes back to the impact. Yes, absolutely, something they love to do every day. That's huge. And so when we think about that, the big question is, how do we help our students self-advocate, right? How do we help them to make those informed decisions about the job that they will one day apply for? So the first thing is this idea of living wage. And there's a great activity on California Career Zone where they go through and they pick their lifestyle. But and that's easy, it's free, kind of like the RISEC activity. And that's going to give an overview of how much money you need to make in order to do this. So I'm going to run through this activity because this is one of my favorites. Discover possibilities. Uh-oh, why aren't we clicking? There we go. I'm going to choose my lifestyle, budget how much money I'll need. I'm in San Diego County, which is, here it is. All right, so I'm hoping to buy a place, next section. I need a cell phone, gas and electric and internet, no home phone or cable. Eat at home and cook fancy food. So you can see this is an opportunity for our students to kind of think about what their lifestyle might look like. And then as you see, it adds a monthly cost up on each one of these. And finally, here we go. I'm going to save 10%. So at the end, once you make all these money choices, which is its own fun activity in itself, you actually get this report that tells you what percent you're spending on each one. It does add in taxes. You can add other items as well. And then at the bottom, it tells you what your minimum annual salary will be. Now, this feels very low for San Diego, but this is not taking into account the fact that you might have roommates, you might have a multi-family household, or you might have children and things like that. So this is a very broad generalization. It's also a county-wide average. So this takes into account that it's not necessarily downtown San Diego, but it might also, it's an average. So you might have lower cost of living in some of our rural communities, which offsets the total cost. But this is a great way for students to get an idea. Then they again can go to view occupations, 523 results. Now, navigating the top right here, the job zone is how many years it took to get there. So a job zone of 1 is some college or a certificate. A 2 is a 2-year degree. A 1 is a high school diploma. A 2 is some college or certificate. A 3 is a 2-year degree. A 4 is a 4-year degree. A 5 is postgraduate work. So here, it also allows for the salary, but since my last little test told me what salary I needed, that's already set. I can also go through and pick any industry sectors. So I'm going to pick arts, media, and entertainment and filter that out. And now there's 30 things that would meet that that I put there. And so I'm going to go through and I'm going to be like, wow, look at all these. Maybe I want to be a graphic designer. So I'm going to click on that. And again, that's going to tell me what my average salaries are, what my jobs are, and all these things. So this is a great way for students to explore based on what they want in the world. Now, you might have noticed I was talking about how cost of living might differ depending on who you are and what your family group looks like. So luckily, MIT has created the living wage calculator. This is for San Diego County, and this actually gives you the living wage, the poverty wage, and the minimum wage based on one adult with 1, 2, or 3 children. All right. I'm all about informed decision making when it comes to students and careers. I think it's also helpful to have them be really informed on the cost of having children, because one adult with 1 child doubles how much money you need to make on an hourly basis, right? So these are really important things for our students to understand. So this gives you a lot of great data if you want to dive a little deeper, not only on the overall wage, but what those typical expenses are for each one of those family groups and how much income they're going to need in order to provide for that family. So here we're giving students an opportunity to really understand how much it costs to live here. Now the next question, how much does it cost to get that education? Well, we do know things like student loan debt is now exceeded credit card debt as the #1 debt problem in the US. And so what we want our students to understand is what return on investment means, and that they are getting a degree, a certificate, whatever it is, that will make more than minimum wage, that will make enough money to pay that back and pay their cost of living. It's really helpful for your students to then see, oh, there are different costs for different post-secondary options, right? Or city college, and actually now that some legislation has passed, the first year is free for our students. And so how do we help them navigate that system and perhaps understand how to best do the pathway where they transfer to SDSU or UCSD? But this helps, I think, our students to best understand the investment that they have to make into their education in order to get that job. I'm the first one to say, hey, I had to pay a lot of money for my education. I still have student loan debts, and I've been out of college for quite a few years, and yet this is an investment that's worthwhile. You are able to buy a house or buy a car, or all of the things that you need if you have the right career that matches your degree. If you pick a degree that doesn't have a lot of careers at the other end, that's where our students get stuck and can't return on the investment. This is a really important question because a lot of our students don't make it through. Even students who start college, almost 50% of our students start college by age 24. But only 22% earn a degree. So half of the kids who start college don't earn a degree, even the 2-year college. And so how do we help our students know what the value is in that and really be motivated to stay in school? Understanding the balance between income and quality of life is another essential. Things like work environment, expected hours, take-home work. Normally, educators have a lot of take-home work. And right now, everything we do is a take-home job, which is different for most people. But if you look at something like the medical industry, they can't take work home because of privacy acts that mean that all of that data needs to stay in the hospital. And so different jobs have really different expectations for that, right? Things like vacation and benefits, our students may not even know you can get paid for those things. So how do we help them navigate that world? I'm one who would never commute a significant commute to work. It would be a deal breaker. But I had a boss who commuted over an hour every day because that worked for him and where his family was and the job that he wanted. And so we all have, luckily, really different needs and desires when it comes to what quality of life means for us, which is great because then we can all end up having different jobs and together we fulfill all the needs of our economy, right? But we also need our students to understand not every job is worth the money. And if it's not worth it to you, then let's help them advocate for something else, upskill and get a better job, and really support them to be able to understand that if you're miserable in a job, it's okay to find another option. All right, talk about what you're good at. This is the final area. Feel free to put any questions in the chat as we move forward, or we'll talk about how you become good at something. This is what we do in school, right? Help people become good at things. So the first thing is to model that. What's a model of success? To practice things, to experience things, to develop skills, and then really start identifying that pathway of how you're going to stack more classes, experience, and certifications together in order to become good and to be hireable into that field. So when we're talking about models of success, bringing in work-based learning opportunities is huge. I think both of you who are here have engaged with our work-based learning team. If you're looking for an industry partner, connect with Alex Becker on our team so that you can participate in getting industry partners. You can also just shoot me an email if you're not already on his email list, so we can get you connected there. Those industry partners can model real world skills, and you can do this also in class, things like technology use and technical skills. Even writing an email. When I was in the classroom, I would get random emails from Sexy Kitten 17 that just said, why didn't you grade my paper? I have no idea who you are. Your email is very unprofessional. Let's talk about how to write an email. And so it's like, dear teacher, I'm in this class period and I thought I turned in XYZ assignment, but I haven't seen it in the gradebook yet. Could you give me more clarification on what to expect, right? That would be miraculous if I got that email from many of our students. And so helping them to navigate and learn those skills is huge. There are a number of strategies for work-based learning that are at this link for you to check out at your convenience. As we know, coursework helps students develop expertise, but where else do they go if they want to learn more, right? They might join a club or a meetup. They might have opportunities in their regular classes to have voice and choice in their assignments. They might pick an elective that they're really interested in. They might engage in project-based learning where they have opportunities to really address real-world problems. Another place they develop expertise is sports, and this is not just athletic expertise, but how to work in a team and how to, have a different role than others for the sake of the group. A goalie's not going to make a lot of goals, but they're going to stop a lot of goals, and so you have different people who play different parts there. Extracurricular, summer programs. Where do you go when you don't know something? YouTube. That's where our students go. That's where I still go oftentimes. And that's another great way to do that. And also social media communities, whether it's TikTok or Facebook. There's a lot of expertise and a lot of networking that can happen in social media. Ultimately, what we want for our students is for them, instead of looking at the next destination, which is their post-secondary option, to instead think of their broader map and where they're headed. And so if you're interested in a career in the healthcare field, you want to think first about that and then think about, okay, well, what do I want to do in that field? What are my program options? And find the major you're looking for. Then seek out the college that has that major. A lot of times we just say, hey, I'm going to this college. My parents went there. It's nearby, whatever it is. But what you want to think about is career first, what program, and then find the right college for that career and program. And so thinking about a career and what the requirements of that are, whether that's academic or certifications or experience. Students, they get out into industry and they don't realize they can't lead the whole team right away. Helping them understand that entry-level positions are another learning experience is really important for them to know. Resumes and LinkedIn profiles are a wealth of information. Most CTE teachers have guest speakers who come into their class. If you can request a resume from your guest speaker in advance, make copies and have the students study it and come up with questions off of their resume. First of all, now your students have a better idea of what kind of experience this person has. It is a living career path of education as well as jobs when you look at a resume. And so now they can be really engaged and ask specific questions. The other piece of the puzzle is that those students can later, when you get around to, hey, students, today we're going to build our resume, they've already seen them. They've seen the real deal from the people that they talked to. So instead of you just copying something off the internet or giving them your own resume, they've already seen a model of what a professional resume looks like in that industry every time they have a guest speaker, and now they're ready to make their own. A note, make sure that if students are going on LinkedIn, you want to be careful about having them have an account that's public. They shouldn't be creating a place where people can access their own information until after they're 18. All right, here it is. Your role is to make sure that our students are prepared to make informed decisions, map out those decision points, get them these opportunities to learn and prepare. And so what the big question is, what do you need to do to prepare students to make those decisions along the way? This is a big picture of Kearney Public Schools. I think it's Nebraska. I found this and I've just always loved it. But this idea, and I know Dawn earlier you talked about, there's no age specific limitation to career readiness. In fact, one of the most impactful videos I've seen is a video where kindergartners were asked to draw a firefighter, a pilot, and a surgeon. And most of them drew white males. And part of it is because they have seen in our society that that is a common stereotype of many of those careers. And so in order to shift thinking, we need to help our students experience careers, have access to people that look like themselves in those careers throughout their educational experience, because these have already been secured in their mind from a very young age. And so this is just an example of a bigger picture. SLC is called a smaller learning community, and any career pathway where you have a group of students who kind of moves together is considered a smaller learning community. But sometimes we have more community-sized learning communities when you have a linked learning pathway or a academy that mixes their core academic classes. But this is a nice way for a organization to think about the bigger picture of learning from K to career. So today we talked about all of these components of finding your purpose or your Ikigai. This lovely poster again is available, so we'll make sure to get those out to you once we're back in the office. But it's also in the file, so you can print them yourself as you'd like. And now I can just take any questions if you have any. Most of these resources are a great way to engage students in enrichment right now while you're designing coursework that will be used for distance learning. And as you go into planning for next year, hopefully a lot of these are also helpful in that space. So does anyone have any questions or comments as we end the webinar today? All right, I see some thank yous, so maybe that means that you're set, but feel free to reach out at any time if you have questions. My contact info is here. I believe you both have access to the distance learning website for CTE, and there are additional resources in this CCR folder. So it's been excellent to see you both today. And those of you who are joining us online, hopefully you got the resources you wanted. Dawn, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay. Great. Well, good luck. I just want you to know you can do it. Distance learning is a big change, but it's something you just learned at a distance today, and your students can do the same. So I think that it's a big challenge, but we're up for the task. So keep up the good work, keep taking care of yourself, and we'll see you all again another time. Thank you very much.